Hey guys, my name is Anthony and in today's video I'm going to be talking about my F1 2021 predictions. So if you do enjoy this video, make sure to hit the like button at any given point because it'll let me know that you guys do enjoy me talking about real life F1, and I will start talking about real life F1 a little bit more often. Not that often because this channel is primarily focused on the F1 games, but I will talk about some F1 related, real life related content very soon. So let's get straight into today's video. So the way that I'm going to structure this video is I'm going to be talking about my predictions in terms of the constructors, then I will be talking about where I think each individual driver will place in the drivers championship, and then I will try and make some bold predictions, more bold predictions just to throw out there just in case by any chance they end up coming true and I look like an absolute genius. So that's the way I'm going to structure the video. So let's get straight into the constructors standings. Okay, so if you see me looking down, it's because I'm looking at my notes on the computer, so that's why I'm looking down instead of looking straight at you guys. So for the 10th place, so for the constructor that's going to finish in last place, in my opinion, it's definitely got to be HAAS. And the reason for that is because right now HAAS is the only team that has a completely new lineup out of every single team on the grid. They're the only team that has both of their drivers coming into the team for this season. So considering that both of these drivers also don't have any F1 experience, obviously being Mazepin and Mick Schumacher, they're both going to need time to really get themselves acquainted with Formula 1. And because of that, I don't really see them being strong contenders for the back markers, if you get what I'm saying. So I really think that they're going to fall back behind everyone else for a season, especially since 2022 will have the new regulations. I think with the new drivers and the new regulations coming in next year, I think HAAS are probably going to try and focus their team around those new regulations, and they're just going to end up coming in last because, again, both of the drivers don't have that Formula 1 experience. And in front of them, obviously, usually people would say that they end up finishing last, but because of HAAS's situation this season, I think Williams are going to finish in 9th place, which really isn't much of a difference. But obviously for Williams, it's a huge difference because usually they are literally at the back of the grid. And they did have a promising season last season. You know, they did show some progressions, especially with George Russell actually consistently getting into Q2 with that Williams car. He will still continue to outdrive that car, I think, going into this season. And obviously with Nicolas having at least a year's experience now in Formula 1, I definitely think that he's going to be able to bring a little bit more to the team than he would have last season. But he's still going to lose out, in my opinion, to George, because George is just, I think he's going to be one of those generational drivers who really come through and really basically shape his generation as a whole. So I really think that Williams are going to come in 9th, just behind Alfa Romeo. So yeah, with Alfa Romeo, I think they're going to have a very similar season to last season. They've got the same lineup, they've practically got the same car, except, you know, it's a new livery with some changes. So I think they're going to have a very similar season to what they had last year. I think Giovinazza is probably going to improve himself even more. Kimi, he's quite old, and honestly, Kimi's just there, I think, for the memes at this point. So I think he's not really going to be as focused as Giovinazza to really improve, because Kimi's towards the end of his career. He doesn't need to prove himself anymore, really. Everyone knows what Kimi can do. Whereas Gio, he's still got a lot to prove in Formula 1. So I definitely think that he is going to be the person to really take up that mantle, and he's going to be the one bringing most of the points that Alfa Romeo will score this season, and ultimately they will finish around about 8th place. Next, we've got another team that's bringing in a Formula 2 driver, and that is AlphaTauri. So Kvyat is no longer in Formula 1. So Gasly is going to have to take up the mantle of being the #1 driver. And obviously Gasly had an amazing season last season. He obviously ended up winning the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. So that was obviously a big highlight in his career. And I definitely think that Gasly does have the talent to lead a team. And obviously he has the experience with the AlphaTauri car. So he definitely has the experience with the car to be able to direct the car in a certain direction. So I definitely think that Gasly will do a pretty good job leading this team. And obviously with Yuki Tsunoda coming into the team this season, I definitely think that he's going to need that time, similar to Mazepin and similar to Schumacher. He's going to need that time to really adjust himself into Formula 1, because everyone knows that the jump between Formula 2 and Formula 1 is humongous. So yeah, he's going to need that time to really get adjusted to Formula 1. And because of that, I think Gasly is obviously going to beat him in the drivers and bring home the majority of the points for AlphaTauri. And because he's going to be doing a lot of the carrying, I don't see AlphaTauri really being that high up. So I definitely think they're going to be, you know, the highest ranking team of the back markers, basically. Next, we've got Alpine or Alpine. I think it's Alpine actually, so I'll continue to say that. Just let me know in the comment section if I'm butchering the name. As you guys know, I'm pretty bad with names. But with Alpine, they're bringing in Alonso again, and obviously Alonso has a ton of experience, not only with their sort of brand, obviously used to be in Renault, but as a driver himself. You know, Alonso has a lot of experience in Formula 1, so he's definitely going to come in and I think be that #1 driver for now. But considering that he himself, from what I believe, did tell the team to really focus on the regulations of 2022, I just don't see them really focusing on this year too much. So I definitely think they're going to be down in the pecking order, and they're going to be towards the back of the midfield guys. And because of that, I think that they're going to be finishing in 6th place behind Aston Martin. And the reason why I think Aston Martin is going to be above Alpine, even though they're in similar situations, it's mainly because of the driver lineup. I definitely think that the driver lineup of Sebastian Vettel and of Lance Stroll is just a little bit stronger than the lineup of Fernando Alonso and Esteban Ocon. And also, Aston Martin's taken over from Racing Point. So I think Racing Point had a more solid car last year than Renault. I mean, Daniel Ricciardo really outdrove that car, so it made it seem as if the car was better than it actually was. Obviously, with Daniel Ricciardo moving to McLaren and getting a few podiums in his last season at Renault, I definitely think that Alpine will show where Renault should have been last year without Daniel Ricciardo's outstanding performances. And with Aston Martin coming in, they have a stronger car in my opinion, and they have a stronger lineup. Even though they're in a similar situation where they're going to be thinking about 2022, they're obviously going to be a little bit stronger than Alpine, so I predict that they're going to finish above Alpine in 5th place. Next up is a team that has really struggled last year. They really struggled, but I don't think they're going to struggle as much this year, and that's Ferrari. And the reason why is because they have a new engine, obviously, so they're going to be a little bit quicker, which apparently I think that was their main problem last year. They just didn't really have the engine. Aerodynamics was okay, but the engine was seriously lacking. So considering that they've used all of their tokens really to focus on that engine side, I definitely think that they're going to be relatively okay. Not as good as they were obviously in 2019 and behind, but they're definitely going to be better than they were in F1 2020, I guess you could say, Formula 1 2020 season. And for that, I think that they're going to finish in 4th. Obviously, they're bringing in Carlos Sainz, who, you know, he's a very consistent driver, so I definitely think he's going to be able to really challenge Charles Leclerc and bring in more points to the team than what Sebastian Vettel brought last season. Because if I remember correctly, Sebastian Vettel only finished 13th in the Drivers' Championship, which, from my knowledge, obviously I don't have a huge knowledge on Formula 1 since I've only been watching since Formula 1 in 2019, the 2019 season. This is the lowest he's finished in a very long time, so yeah, I definitely think that Carlos Sainz will be able to bring more points this season for Ferrari than Sebastian Vettel did last season. And because of that, Ferrari are going to gain more points overall, with Charles Leclerc obviously being fantastic last season, even in that car. I definitely think that they can bring what they need to bring to the table and finish at the top of the midfield as best of the rest. So now we move on to my predictions for the top 3 teams, and I'm pretty sure you can predict how these are going to go because it's a fairly standard top 3 based on last season. So for number 3, we've got McLaren, and the reason why I think McLaren will still be in the top 3 this year versus the other teams, it's simply because McLaren's car was very strong last year, and if their car is just even as remotely strong this year, combining with the fact that they've just brought in the Mercedes engine and they've just brought in the experience of Daniel Ricciardo, I don't see them losing that top 3 spot to any of the other teams in the midfield. So I definitely think that they're going to finish behind 2nd place, obviously, who you guys Probably not at this point. But yeah, I definitely think they're going to finish in third. Daniel Ricciardo is going to bring a lot of experience, and he already has experience of being in a top 3 team back when Red Bull was considered to be the 3rd best team in Formula 1. So he definitely has that experience. And Lando Norris on his day is fantastic. Obviously, he ended up getting a podium pretty early on in the season, last season. So he can definitely do it. He can definitely bring the points home for the team. And obviously, Daniel Ricciardo will be, in my opinion, the #1 driver, even though he's just coming into the team, because he just has that experience that Lando just can't have right now because he's only been in for a few seasons. So in second place, I'm pretty sure you guys can guess that Mercedes were gonna... No, I'm just kidding, guys. Obviously, I think Red Bull are gonna finish in second place, with Mercedes winning once again for the 8th time in a row, I believe. I think it's the 8th. Yeah, they won their 7th title in a row last season. So I definitely think they're gonna win their 8th title this season, and Red Bull is going to come in second place. You know, with Ferrari taking a huge back seat in the top 3 standings, Red Bull has really risen to be that #2 team, and Max obviously being the only person on the grid usually that could even compete with the Mercedes guys. I definitely think that they're going to finish in second place, and obviously they're bringing in Sergio Perez, who last year was very, very impressive in that Racing Point car, even more impressive than Alex Albon in the Red Bull car. So it's going to be interesting to see how Perez does in this Red Bull car. Obviously, Max is going to control the team. He's going to be the leader, and he's going to bring in the most points for this team. However, I do think that Sergio Perez is going to cement Red Bull's spot in second place by bringing home more points for Red Bull than Alex Albon did as the second driver last season. So as I said, first place is going to be Mercedes. Lewis, you know, Lewis is going to control this as usual. Valtteri Bottas, I just don't see him really competing with Lewis. I think Valtteri's main challenge will be Max, and then Lewis will run away with it again and probably win his 8th drivers championship, which would obviously cement him as the most winning driver of all time in Formula 1. So Mercedes are going to win, and Lewis is obviously going to control Mercedes as he has done for the past, 7 years. Okay, so moving on to the drivers. Obviously, I've mentioned where I think a few people are going to place relative to their own teammates or relative to the entire grid. So what I'm going to do is talk to you about where I think the drivers are going to finish based on my own opinions of them. Obviously, you guys have your own opinions, and it might obviously not happen. It might be, completely wrong based on the end of the season. So again, as I said, Lewis is probably going to win his 8th drivers championship and surpass Michael Schumacher, which would be obviously incredible to see. You usually see stuff in history and you're like, those were incredible moments, but to live through those incredible moments as well is amazing. Obviously we talk about Ronaldo and Messi, who's better, but if you really sit down and think about it, you're never really gonna see 2 footballers on their level play at the same time ever again, I don't think. So be grateful that you're actually in the moment that someone is making history, and that's what I think we're gonna see this season from Lewis. And then Valtteri Bottas, I don't think he's gonna finish in second place. A lot of the time last season, Valtteri got very lucky, and the only reason I think that he finished in second place last season was because of the amount of retirements that Max had. Nothing to do with Valtteri's own driving. I think the only reason he came second last season was because Max's car failed on him multiple occasions. So for that reason, I think that Max, if he doesn't have as much retirements this season as he did last season, then he's definitely going to finish above Valtteri Bottas in second place. So I've got Lewis first, Max second, Valtteri third, and then I've actually got Ricciardo fourth. I think being in a McLaren with the Mercedes engine and the experience he has, I think he can actually surpass Sergio. So I think that Daniel Ricciardo will finish in fourth, and then Sergio will finish in fifth, with Charles Leclerc from Ferrari finishing in sixth place. Obviously last season Leclerc, he put in some performances that should not have been done in that Ferrari car, getting a few podiums when he really should not have been there. So if he's able to repeat that again this season, I definitely think he's going to finish in that top 6, with Lando Norris finishing in 7th. And then I've got Sebastian Vettel, who will hopefully have a better season this season with Aston Martin than he did with Ferrari last season, coming in 8th place. And then Carlos Sainz in the other Ferrari finishing in 9th place, and then I've got Lance Stroll finishing 10th. So moving on to the guys who will be outside of the top 10, I've got Alonso finishing 11th. Now, some people might not think that because obviously Alonso's aggressive driving style and just his experience in Formula 1. But I think he's going to finish outside of the top 10 in the drivers, mainly because of the car he's driving. I think he's going to finish 11th mainly because of the car he's driving, and then we can see what happens once the regulations happen in 2022. And then I think Pierre Gasly is going to finish in 12th, with Esteban Ocon finishing in 13th. And then I've got Giovinazza and Kimi Räikkönen for 14th and 15th respectively for Alfa Romeo. Then I've got George Russell in 16th. I do think that he's going to score some points this season with Williams, so I definitely think that will push him up to 16th. And then I've got Yuki Tsunoda in 17th. And the reason why I've got Yuki in 17th is because, again, he's going to be in a quicker car than the Williams. So I don't think Nicolas Latifi, even though he's got a year up on him, is going to be able to beat Tsunoda. And Tsunoda's coming into Formula 1 as the Formula 2 champion, I believe. So he's definitely got the talent to be able to surpass someone like Nicolas Latifi in a Williams whilst he's in an Alfa Tauri. So I think Yuki Tsunoda will be in 17th with Nicolas Latifi in 18th. And then the two back markers of the grid will obviously be the two new HAAS drivers, with Mick Schumacher coming in and Nikita Mazepin in 20th place. I don't think Mazepin will top Schumacher. I think Schumacher will finish ahead of Mazepin a few more times than not. So I definitely think in terms of that, Schumacher will finish above Mazepin. Okay guys, so bold predictions. What have I got to say in terms of bold predictions? Well, there's a few I've got to say, and the first one is that, you know, it's the main bold prediction that everyone makes every season that you probably know is not going to come true, but you say it anyway just on the off chance that it does, and that is Valtteri Bottas is going to beat Lewis Hamilton for the Drivers' Championship this season. So I'm going to put that out there, and hopefully he does it this season, and if he does, then obviously this bold prediction will finally come true for most people. And if it doesn't, then obviously Lewis will probably win. I don't see Max winning the whole thing. I think Max will get second at best. So if Valtteri wins, then Max will probably finish third, and if Lewis wins, then I think Max will probably finish second. That's my bold prediction. Valtteri Bottas will beat Lewis for the Drivers' Championship this season. The next bold prediction is that Ferrari will actually reclaim a top 3 spot in the Constructors. Obviously, I know they had a pretty abysmal season last season, but if they're able to get off to a good start this season, you never know, they could actually finish in the top 3 again, and we can get another Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari sort of fight for the championship essentially. So you never know, it could happen. I'm just throwing it out there that Ferrari will be back in the top 3, and if they are, they are. If they're not, they're not really. My next bold prediction is that George Russell will score more than 5 points this season with Williams. Obviously, Williams is not necessarily known as a scoring team, and last season their best finishing position from any driver was 11th place, so they're not used to scoring points. But I think that if George Russell can really apply himself, learn from the race that he had in the Mercedes car back at Bahrain, the outer layer, and really apply himself this season, I think he could maybe score up to 5 points in the Williams car, which doesn't sound like a lot compared to other teams, but for Williams, scoring 5 points is actually a pretty huge deal. So I think he can do that, and that's why I'm throwing it out there that George Russell will score at least 5 points this season with Williams. Another bold prediction I have is that Yuki Tsunoda, in his first season in Formula 1, will outscore Pierre Gasly. And really and truly, I'm just saying this one to say it, really, just to have it out there, just in case for some reason it does end up happening. I've really got no reason behind it. Obviously, as I said before, Yuki Tsunoda is coming into Formula 1 as the Formula 2 champion. So I guess that's probably the only reason I'm saying it, but it's just a bold prediction meant to basically excite everyone in case it just does happen. And my final bold prediction is one of 2 drivers will win a race this season. And that is either Daniel Ricciardo in a McLaren or Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. Obviously, as I said, last season, Charles Leclerc put himself in places he really should not have been in that Ferrari. And I think if he continues to do that this season, I think Charles, even in the car that's not really that good as a Ferrari, I think he will still end up winning a race. That's just a bold prediction of mine. I think either Daniel Ricciardo in the new McLaren with the Mercedes engine, obviously, or Charles Leclerc will end up winning at least one race this season, and that's another bold prediction of mine. So let me know in the comment section if you guys have any outlandish bold predictions or just your general predictions as well for this season. What do you think is going to happen? Who do you think is going to place where? And again, if you have any bold predictions, let me know those as well. So I'm going to finish the video off here. It was a different type of video. I'm not used to doing this type of video, so if you did enjoy the way that I structured it, then make sure to hit the like button. As I said before, it lets me know that you guys enjoy me talking about real life F1, and it will showcase to more people on YouTube because it will let YouTube know that you guys are enjoying the content as well. And make sure to hit the subscribe button if you're still watching by this point and you're not subscribed. I believe only 30% of my viewers in the last month were subscribers, so make sure to hit that subscribe button to stick around for more F1 2020 content, and I'll see you guys in my next video.